Hey, Vinny, can I just ask you a question? Are you still in California or did you move to like Virginia or something like that? Because I keep seeing you from Virginia lately on your social media.
Yeah, I didn't move like to Virginia. I moved to Virginia.
Oh, okay. So, okay, you're in
I'm
Virginia.
out in California. And just in time, I mean, we left right during the fires. It was almost like a really bad movie. It was like flames behind us. LA was on fire last year. And
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, wow.
yeah.
So what prompted the move? Was it just tired of the craziness in California or just kind of but there better opportunity in Virginia?
No, the opportunity is the same. I'm still doing the same thing. You know, it got to the point, Sean, at some point, you know, after Fitness Confidential, the book came out and, you know, the podcast took off and all of this stuff is going on. And I created Pure Vitamin Club and Pure Coffee Club. It turned out that I didn't really have to be in front of clients anymore. And I started doing all of my consults by telephone and by Zoom.
Yeah.
Uh, so there was no reason to be there. And, you know, this is not political. Everybody will tell you that the taxes in California are just astronomical and you don't get anything for them. What you get for your taxes in California is a homeless guy sleeping in your front yard. And I kid you not, we were living in a neighborhood that was a great neighborhood. And then all of a sudden, and I feel bad for homeless people, but it makes your property go down once you have a tent in your front yard. It's just a fact. And I couldn't take that anymore. So
Yeah, no, I'm in California. I believe me, I know the taxes, and we're debating, at some point moving once things, get settled at some point. But yeah, I mean, it's you've got some nice weather and you've got some nice outdoor stuff. Virginia's a beautiful place too. I don't know what part of Virginia you're in. I've been to Blacksburg. It's been my sole experience to Virginia years ago for a powerlifting contest. But what part of Virginia are you located, or is that secret?
well, it's somewhat secret. We're in Central Virginia now. We're looking for, I bought this house a couple of years ago when my daughter came to college here at UVA. So we could come and visit. And whenever we weren't here, we would just Airbnb it. And it became a great deal because it pays for itself. Well, until recently, now nothing pays for itself. I think we're all going broke slowly with this COVID thing. But, we will move out of this house. We're looking for our permanent home, and it won't be in this area. It's going to be out in the sticks somewhere with some land and what have you. So,
Yeah, that seems to be something a lot of people get towards the end of the career, like they want some land, they want to be self-sufficient and get away from all the stuff, the craziness.
basically, I'm trying to become the Unabomber without
without the felony charges. Hopefully, you just kind of live out there on your own. Hey, I guess I'll let Brett just ask this. He wanted you to relay a story about you having your shoulder operated on. Apparently, that's a good story. I don't know if you want to relay that or not, or.
Yeah, it's interesting. My shoulder, I played college football and through all of that. And I was kind of like a Sean Baker back in the day. I was a power lifter, and all those years of that. And I wrecked my shoulder. Actually, I wrecked my shoulder in high school. By the time I got through college, it had been operated on 3 times. And by the time I hit my 35th birthday, my right arm was stuck by my side. I couldn't lift it or do anything. So this guy up in Seattle did this radical surgery where it's called the Riemann run. They on one end, he puts the titanium or cobalt ball on, but they don't put the plastic component. He just reams out where the shoulder would have been and just put the ball right on the bone. And it's radical. No one's really doing it except this doctor. And I think he's taught 4 or 5 other guys how to do it. Well, they said it was going to be weeks and weeks and months of painkillers because of all the inflammation. They actually let me out of the hospital a day early because I wasn't eating any of the hospital food. Serena she was rolling ice chests down the hall every day. And the nurse staff and everyone was kind of, shaking their heads going, oh boy, here goes the crazy people again. I never put any hospital food in me. In fact, all I ate was eggs for breakfast, fish for lunch, meat for dinner. And she brought some berries in that ice chest. I had a few berries. And the doctors kept coming in and they were like, wait a minute, there's no drainage, there's no puffiness. the physical therapist that was coming in and moving my arm back and forth all day. It's like we've never seen this before. And then they were supposed to keep me in the hospital for 4 days. On the third day, they released me and said, we only keep people because of the pain and all of the inflammation, but you don't seem to have that. And we don't understand it. And I said, well, I understand it. I'm not eating sugars. I'm not eating grains. I'm not eating seed oils. I'm not inflamed. And in fact, it did not take me 6 months to come off of painkillers. I took half of the Class C narcotics they gave me, half of what they gave me on a daily basis for 10 days. On the 11th day, I took a Tylenol, like the one you would buy over the counter, to go to sleep that night. And that was all of the painkillers in its entirety for that whole thing, period. You know, so it just goes to show you, you know, your results may vary, but it's not going to vary that much, you know?
Yeah, Vinny, I've seen repeatedly people, you know, that would go on low carb ketogenics, you know, diets, and they'll exclude that sugar, grain, and that stuff. And I still the same thing. I mean, you know, less inflammation, less pain, quicker recovery, less complications. I mean, it's almost like a no-brainer, but we want to recognize that. And then also, I mean, I think, you know, there's Andrew Berger's here was crediting you for starting him on low carb, and Andrew's a type 1 diabetic, and now he's doing a, you know, kind of a meat-based diet, but he's got these perfect blood glucose. He's come off most of his insulin, but, you know, to your credit for the no sugar, no grain, I mean, you've been a entrance point for so many because it's such a simple message. And I think there's a lot of truth that, and it captures probably, you know, 90% of the people do that and they get better. And so it's a great broad appeal. I want to ask you a little about the film, because, you know, I mean, I watched you sort of fundraise. I watched you kind of do it. You didn't mess around. I mean, you got it done. I mean, this is because I know of several filmmakers that are in the process of making a low carb, you know, keto, whatever, carnivore movie, and it's been years, it's been 2 years, 3 years, and nothing happens. And you, in a period of, I think it might have been a year, that you guys got it done, knocked out, published, put on multiple platforms. And it was a very good movie. I really enjoyed it. You know, I think probably many of the people here watched it, I would assume. And so have you gotten the impact out of it that you wanted to from it, or what's going on with the film currently?
Yeah, thanks for even asking about it. You know, you saw me on the first days of shooting. We were both at that keto thing down
San Diego, I think. Yeah.
What's that called? Let's give him a plug.
Low carb San Diego, I think, was where you were doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, you and I were in the hallways, and I saw you there, and I'm like waving to you, hey, and we both had crowds of people around us most of the time, and it was like, but we went there and shot most of the people. One of my biggest regrets, and this is not blowing smoke up your ass, Sean, was not having you in the movie. It was an oversight. And if I ever do another movie, you would be a big part of it because of your work and what you've been doing. But yeah, we went down there. We knew who we were going to film. You know, the crazy thing is, we came up with the idea. You know, we conceived an idea, and then we achieved the idea. Within a couple of months, we funded the movie through a crowdsourcing campaign. We then went right down to San Diego and shot. We did a second day of shooting at my house, 2 days at my house to get the rest of the doctors. And between that time and the first of the year, we put a movie out. When people say, why does it take these filmmakers? And I say the same thing, 2, 3, 4 years. Well, and this is not me, this is just who I am. When I'm the only guy working on it, and you know, I don't rely on anyone else, and I never have in life. I don't have to go ask for people to go, hang on there, cowboy, we got to go through A, B, C, and D. I got there, I worked on it. My film partner, Peter Pardini, is just like I am. We sat there for hours a day, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, just hammering. Peter is a genius. And we got it out, and then we got it right to a distributor and put it out. We had no advertising dollars behind this film, zero, because I spent all of the people's money on the film and a lot of my own money. we got the movie out. It went to #1 on iTunes, beating out Free Solo, which was like killing it last summer. And it stayed there for a long time. Amazon kept messing around, putting it in the wrong categories, and I have a lot of theories as to why that was going on. Eventually, they couldn't deny it anymore. They put it in the documentary category because the movie is called Fat, a Documentary. So why not put it where it belongs? They did that. And then the movie went so big on Amazon that they, put it in Amazon Prime and everywhere else. And then Steiner International picked up on it. It's on airlines all over the world, and it's on 65 VODs around the world. The impact has been phenomenal. Now, let's say people have said to me, why haven't you sold it to Netflix yet? And the reason was, had I given that movie to Netflix, to one outlet, it would never have seen the audience that's seen that movie. The numbers are astronomical and crazy, and they continue on. That movie's been out for like 6-8 months now, and the numbers are crazy on it. I couldn't have ever imagined it.
That's wonderful to hear. Yeah, because I know I've heard other people lament about, Netflix. One, they don't even tell you how many movies they've sold. They never let you know what your data is. So you kind of like, they give you a flat fee and probably undercut most of the guys that put in the work on that. I really appreciate, and some of, obviously you're talking to a group of people that eat a bunch of meat. We appreciate the beginning of the film where you reference, Vilmar Stefansson, and even brought that up because that's been buried and no one talks about it. And I, like I said, while I have a bunch of people that promote a meat-only diet, I've been certainly said, hey, meat should be part of the diet. For some people, it's all their diet, but many people do fine with like what you're doing, the meats and berries, a few things here and there, and that's fine. But to acknowledge that meat isn't the bad guy, because a lot of the low carb reviews you've seen over the years, if you watch it evolve like I am, well, we eat so much spinach and all these leafy green vegetables and broccoli, and we just have a little bit of meat and we, coconut oil. And they've kind of sort of said, well, meat is kind of one of those things that's bad, and we're getting at least some appreciation for that. And I really appreciate you putting that in there and showing that humans can live in different diverse ways, which many of us have chosen to do to our health benefit. And the only thing I say, I'm not particularly dogmatic. I'm dogmatic about get healthy. I don't care how you get there. If it's meat, fine. If it's meat plus fruits and vegetables, keto, no sugar, no grain, those things are great. So hats off for you to putting that part of the movie.
Can I capitalize on that for just a second?
Sure, of course, Vinnie.
When I wrote my book, it was almost 10 years ago when the book was being written. And I kept saying, I can't put the word keto in the book. Think about that. The word keto didn't really exist. People like me, we weren't using the word keto, we were using ketogenic. And Dean Laurie, who was writing the book with me, didn't know anything about health and fitness. He goes, why can't you put keto in the book? I said, because most doctors in the world will say that we're talking about ketoacidosis and we're trying to kill people. That's where we were 10 years ago. So that's why he goes, well, we have to call it something. Do you want to call it low carb? I said, well, that sounds too much like Atkins. He goes, but what is the essence of what we're doing here? We were probably 40,000 words into the book and we're having this conversation. I said, basically, as I tell you and all of my other clients, cut out sugar, all sugars, cut out grains, and that takes care of all of the junk food and everything else, and you're left with eating low carb by dint of just doing one thing correctly. So NSNG was born out of being scared to put the word ketogenic, to write the word in a book. Since then, ketogenic has become a thing. Keto has become a thing. At the same time my book came out, paleo was becoming a thing with Lauren Cordain. And all of that was going on. And I applaud a guy like you who was able to take it to the next level and go, you know what? We don't even need the macronutrient of carbohydrates at all, which, I was sitting there going, amen, Sean, amen. This is what everyone needs to hear, and so there we are. We've come full circle, and I think we're where we need to be. What say you? I think Sean.
Well, Vinnie, I think that, and I didn't realize that was fitness. You're talking about Fitness Confidential, which, was, can you guys hear me okay? Hello? You guys hear me okay? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear
Yeah,
you
Fitness
now.
Confidential came out,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, my internet paused or something. There was a fumble or something. So Fitness Confidential, I guess you said, is 10 years old. If you guys haven't read it, it's a very, very entertaining book. Like I said, what I'm demonstrating, some of us are demonstrating, yeah, the carbs, you don't need them. You don't have to have them. Now, conditionally, can they be beneficial? Sure. I think for certain people, for many people, they're fine. But I mean, you just have to realize it's not a requirement. So you have that option to you. You're not going to die. You're not going to get scurvy. I mean, like I said, we're sitting here proving it every single day. I think that the important message, that I try to get forward is, we just have had this our head in the sand for so long, and the fact that we're ignoring this huge community. I mean, I don't know if you're aware, David Ludwig, I'm sure maybe David Ludwig, is doing a study on this
He's been on
population.
the show.
They're getting it. It's actually being collected, and the data is being collected right now, and will probably be done through collection period at the end of May, and then they'll start writing that up, and it'll be published in a pretty major journal. David and Belinda are both out of Harvard University, which I know Harvard has its detractors, particularly when you talk about the Walter Willett side with the T-Chan School of Public Health, but they're not affiliated with that same department. So it's been an entertaining journey with that. But this is what I want to say, Winnie. I mean, you've been doing the no sugar, no grain for I don't know how many years now. I mean, I watch you on social media, ask question. People ask you question over question over question. It's the same thing over and over again. Is this no sugar, no grain? And you've had the patience. You do it in a humor, a way with humor, which people enjoy. But you put in the work. It's like, why is somebody out there doing that much work? And you can tell you're passionate about it, and you're trying to help people. It's the same thing I do. What we're doing every day, day in and day out. I mean, there's a lot easier ways to make money. There's a lot of things you could be doing, and I could be doing where I could just say, I'm going to make money. But I'm in here putting in the work day in and day out, as are you on social media. People think, well, you're on social media, that's just play. But no, it's actually work. I mean, you're actually influencing lives and doing that. So I really appreciate that. Did you guys hear all that? I'm not sure if my connection
Thanks,
is
Sean.
good.
Yeah, no, we can hear you, and we can hear you fine. Your video is a little wonky,
great.
but we can hear you fine. Yes, thank you for even saying that, because, yeah, doing social media is not fun for me. I think it's necessary to keep the message going in the right direction, and I try to answer every reasonable question that gets asked on a daily basis. And sometimes it's 300-400 different questions I'm answering a day. And some of these answers are on speed dial because, I've answered them so many times. But there are new people coming in every day. So I don't get frustrated. I just go, here's a new person who wants to learn about this. So I'm just going to throw it out there and let them hear it. And it's the only way to repetition. Hell, you're a weightlifter. The way you get stronger is repetition, period. And that's what we're doing here, just repetition.
Yeah, and I always realize, it seems like, I've answered the same question thousands and thousands of times, but then I realize it's always a new audience. They wouldn't ask it if they already knew the answer to that. So I kind of try not to, do that. Fortunately, you get people that are like, you get people that can answer the question for, and that's why you make the documentaries. That's why you have the FAQs. And I know you put out a document, a free guides and all this. And you say, hey, this, I've written this down in detail. I don't have time to write a 6-paragraph answer to your question. Here, do this, here, that. And, even though that information is out there, freely available, people still they won't even click on a link. It's kind of like they want you to go through and type all that stuff. So sometimes it gets a little bit overwhelming. And, and I agree with you. I mean, the social media part, it is a necessary evil, and it's something that I don't think any of us will get away from. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's going to, if anything, it's going to be more intrusive. And, everything is digital now. I mean, we're seeing that with this coronavirus. I think you're going to end up with more and more people working from home, they're going to find out, hey, we can do a lot of stuff without being there, which may be, there may be some benefit to that. But I mean, I think we're never going to get away from this stuff. And so you either evolve or you go the way of the dinosaur. And it sounds like, maybe if you make it far enough in life where you're financially stable and you can go out into the Unabomber woods and hang out and, raise chickens and eat and don't mess with people. I don't know. Vinnie, what's,
I think,
when did you,
you cut out, Sean.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Ask the question
I was going to
again. I
ask
heard,
you,
when
when
you
did you come up
cut
with,
out?
yeah, when did no sugar, no grain sort of start? I know you even trademarked that phrase, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I did. No Sugars, No Grains started with me in the 90s, because I was training a lot of celebrities in Hollywood, and my job was generally, it started off with these moms who are actresses, right? But they're moms. And, when you shoot a movie, you shoot the movie and they're looking really hot for the movie. And women in Hollywood, they, they literally plan pregnancies between the time they finish shooting a movie and when the movie's coming out. That's the time period. So they'll go, okay, I have a year before this movie comes out, I'll have a kid. They pop out a kid, they still have the mommy weight, but now part of their contract is to go walk the red carpet and push this movie and the whole thing. And they don't look anything like they looked when they shot the movie. So I would get the phone call for that, and they would go, hey, you got 6 weeks to get the weight off of this woman and make her look red carpet ready. And I was like, okay, all right, what do we do? And I would go in and say, listen, I know you're nursing a baby. I'm not going to put you on some starvation diet. You can have all the fish, all the meat, all the vegetables you want. We need to cut out any kind of, food from a package, number one. And the mantra is no sugar, no grains, no sugars, no grains. And every time I would walk in 3 and 4 and 5 times a week to work with them, did you have any sugars or grains yesterday? I became known as the no sugars, no grains guy, because it would come out of my mouth so many times that became the mantra with me. And that's how I got women to lose 15, 20, 30 pounds to get back into their ingenue weight again, and that's how it all started. It was just something I started as a mantra back in the 90s.
Vinnie, how much I know you said you still work with some folks. I mean, how much are you still doing that? Are you still working with people to help them lose weight, either a rapid or a sustained fashion? And if so, I mean, do you mess with fasting or intermittent fasting or meal frequency, or what are your thoughts on protein? I mean, I just got to get obviously eliminating the sugars and grains we'd all agree with that, I think, at least in this community. What are your thoughts on some of those other aspects and then of course, exercise is a good one too.
I don't work with people in person anymore, only by phone and by Zoom. And I'm doing quite a few of those. As far as intermittent fasting, I try to stay away from it for the most part. And for the only reason is because people try to use it online as trickery. OMAD became a thing and all this kind of stuff. And it's fine for a lot of people, and I'm not against it. I just tend to stay away from it because I'm trying to get people, look, usually by the time people get to me and they're 300 or 400 pounds and they've tried every trick in the book, I'm not going to hand them another trick. Hey, try not eating until noontime and try having one meal a day. They've already tried every trick in the book. It didn't work. So let's get them back in the habit of having some eggs for breakfast, having some meat or fish for lunch, having some meat for dinner. Let's get into a routine here. And then later on, if they want to mess around with fitting everything into a window, then that's fine. But I try to keep them out of that tight window of eating because they've had a lifetime of, praying at the altar of that weird minutia of you can only do this or you can only eat that. And I'm trying to fix that along with everything else. Protein to fat ratio. Look, I believe in a high fat ratio, but you're not going to put on Sean Baker type of muscle without protein. It's a building block. That being said, I don't think anyone ever needs to really take a protein powder. You get all the protein you need from natural foods. Back in the Paleolithic era, there was no protein powder, period. Does it hurt to take a protein powder? No, not if you're taking a good one. One that doesn't have anything in it other than, the egg white protein or the whey protein. But still is really not needed, for the average person. And again, that goes down to trickery. Should I eat my eggs in the morning or should I take my protein powder? Well, the eggs are going to be a healthier option. It's going to have every macronutrient you want in there, and it's going to have all of the building blocks of every protein you want, all of the amino acids. So what are you going to do better than that? You're not. Where are you on that, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I generally dissuade people from taking protein. I'm protein powders. I think that, I mean, when we look at food, it's more than just the macros. There's, like particularly with meat, there's vitamins, there's minerals, there's carnitine, there's carnosine, there's creatine, there's all these things that come with the prepackaged in the food that you're getting such a benefit. Now, if for some reason you're like, I'm really focusing on a macronutrient composition, say I'm a bodybuilder, physique better, and I'm having a hard time, and I think this is where the extreme goes, because when people are coming down, they want to get down to 5% body fat or something like that, and they're like, I can't eat the fat. And as you and I know, going long periods of time without fat ultimately leads to a problem. You end up crashing, you crash your hormones, you feel like garbage. Fat is essential. I think fat can be overeaten. I mean, clearly there are people that do that, but I do think fat is vital. I think we need to eat far more fat than what we're told we're supposed to eat by folks like the USDA and some of the plant-based advocates. I think obviously when you combine fat with sugar, you've kind of changed things a little bit. I think that's a problem. Like eating ice cream is different than eating the fat on a ribeye steak, in my view. When you have a different combination. But I used protein powder for years, growing up lifting, that was just what you're told to do. Get enough protein, get 300, 400, 500 grams of protein a day. When you're 6'5", 280, 290 pounds, that was pretty reasonable. I don't do that at all anymore. I mean, it's something that, I get plenty of protein through meat. I mean, there's no lack of protein in my diet.
Yeah, and I'm the
Vinny,
same way. I'm lifting more weight lately. Are you there, Sean?
I'm there. Yeah, I'm having you said you're lifting a bit more recently.
Yeah, because of COVID, I set up a gym here at the house. I'm lifting more. I'm probably eating more, red meat than I normally eat, which is a lot of red meat. And it's funny how, it's hard to believe I could eat more red meat than I was eating, but I'm enjoying putting on a little muscle for the first time in a lot of years. As you know, when I had my shoulder thing, I couldn't, and it feels healthy. It feels good. And as you get older, it's good to have some extra muscle on your bones. I think it staves off old age to a large degree. And I'm looking around going, why wasn't I doing more of this anyway? Well, it's because I was always climbing mountains and I was always riding a bicycle, and it was hard to do. But I'm really enjoying putting on some muscle mass again. It's not Sean Baker amount of muscle mass. I'll never get back to that, but it feels good. I feel stronger. There's a different bounce in your step when you start doing that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I've preached, get enough protein, and lean muscle mass is vital. I mean, to men, women, young, old, particularly as, if you want to spend the next 30, 40 years, not having someone carry your suitcases and wheeling around in a wheelchair and being in a diaper. I mean, for God's sake, put on some muscle, maintain it. That muscle is function. And it's life. I mean, it's the quality of life. I mean, I think I equate muscle to quality of life. Now, you don't have to be a bodybuilder. I mean, I'm not saying, you need to walk around, with this steroided out, and you and I both, I mean, I've never taken steroids, never taken drugs. I've been accused of it a lot. I mean, they're constantly accusing me of taking steroids and testosterone. So I don't take any of that stuff. But I mean, I don't think you need to have this giant, friggin' Mr. Olympia muscle. I mean, I think that's probably detrimental long-term, I mean, to maintain that. But I mean, having good, solid, and we know what it looks like. I mean, you know what somebody's healthy looks like. I mean, you look at an animal and say that animal looks scrawny and looks like he's going to die, and that animal looks robust and vibrant. I think the same thing with humans, and muscle is a big part of that. And I mean, it's obviously too much body fat. You don't be big and have much body fat either. So there's kind of this middle ground with that.
Yeah, and by the way, people have asked me if I thought Sean Baker was on steroids, and I said, nah, I don't think he is. And they would say, well, why? And I would say, well, there's two reasons. One, there's a certain look that steroid guys get. Sean doesn't have that look, number one. And by the way, I get asked the same question about Ted Naiman, and I can tell you, yeah, no for him too. I said, so he doesn't have the steroid look, neither of these guys, number one. And number two, I've watched him lift weights. He would have much more of a pump look with the amount of weights that guy can lift. He would have way more of a pump if he was taking steroids. There's no way in hell Sean Baker's taking steroids. But I think you are a great model to let people see. Now, you have the genetics from hell too, so that plays into it. Not everyone's going to look like you, right? You're a mountain of a human being, but you're a perfect model to let people know what you can look like and not take steroids. And Sean, you're my age, right? Are you a little younger than me?
I'm 53. I'm 53 and a half. I know you're like 57 now, Vinny. Or how old are you now?
57.
57, yeah.
I wish people told me I looked like I was back when I was in my 20s. People were like, "Oh yeah, that guy's roided out." No, I'm just the pinnacle of what you could get to without steroids. And I lived it every single day. I ate it. I lived in a gym. I did everything you had to do to look that way without taking steroids. And it can be done. It's just that most people won't take the time to do it. Steroids are a lazy way out, and they're going to kill you eventually. So that's my rant on that. But
yeah, I mean, it's just hard. I mean, I've been training now consistently for 40 years. I mean, every day, 40 years. Rarely have I taken, I've never even taken a full week off in 40 years. I mean, it's just constant, consistent work day in and day out. And, right now I've leaned out a little bit intentionally. And now people are like, oh my God, you're on steroids because you're leaner. And I'm like, no, I just don't have, your muscles you can see your muscles better when you're leaner. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. I've got a lot of people and I just say, okay, I'll take any test you want to pay for. Because people are always like, well, you're on this or on that. Well, if you think I'm on that, pay for a test, I'll take it. And then they all almost always, well, I'm not going to pay for that. Because then it's like, well, what test you want me to take? Well, that one, then you could be cheating it this way and that way. And it's just like ridiculous. So I'm just like,
Yeah, you can't, they won't allow you to be right online. I was just talking to my good friend, Robin Switzer, who, she runs KetoCon.
KetoCon, right, yeah.
And, because I'm going to do a thing with her next week. And I was saying, hey, how's it going? And she was like, they really beat us up online because COVID-19, everything got shut down and people are blaming them for canceling KetoCon, right? It's like, what, you think they stole your money going, hey, we know something called COVID-19 is coming down the street. Let's collect everyone's money and screw them. That's the way people are acting, and I look at that and I go, you got to be fucking kidding me. You got to be kidding me. Robin Switzer and they've done nothing but help people. And it kills me that even some of the presenters went online and said, people that they were going to showcase said, yeah, they should give all the money back. They don't have the money to give back. It cost a ton of money to run one of those shows. They paid all of those vendors. They're not getting that money back at all. It's crazy. And when people go after people online like that, it drives me nuts. People went after me when I put the movie out because I couldn't give them their free copy on the day I said I would give it to them. Come on. The idea was to get a fucking movie out,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, most people have half the data. I mean, we see this. I mean, I don't know if you want to wade into controversy because this is just, I've not seen so much polarization in a topic recently, outside of maybe some of the political stuff, But with this COVID-19 stuff, I mean, it's just like there's no middle ground at all. I mean, it's either it's plandemic, it's a government conspiracy, or, I'm going to hide under my bed in my basement, with a mask on, and put a dog on my mask, or put a mask on my dog type of stuff. I mean, where do you fall on this? I mean, like I said, I'm first of all, I say, I don't know, because I'm not a virologist. I'm not an infectious disease expert. You've got so much source of information, and who to trust, who to believe. I know that, I mean, it makes sense to me, stay healthy, and I really, and I know other people lamented the fact they're not taking this opportunity to say, look, we know that obese, diabetics, people with pre-existing medical comorbidities are at higher risk. I mean, I don't even think that's debatable, but at the same time, no one's saying do anything about it. I mean, we know, like for blood sugar, we know we have a way to lower people's blood sugar. I mean, just put them on a low carb diet. I mean, that works. I mean, even the recent Kevin Hall study, I mean, clearly showed that. I mean, a low carb, high fat diet lowers blood sugar. Is that going to confer some protection to these diabetics? Probably, but you're not even allowed to ask that question. Could that make you more immune competent? Is that going to help somebody like that? What are your thoughts on the way we're doing this stuff?
Conspiracy of the whole thing. No, I don't think it was a government conspiracy that they're trying to cover up. I do think that it's turning political now. For the people who hate the current president, they're going, oh, wait, this is a great way to get him out. They tried every other way and they failed. So now they're going, wait a minute, we have a really weak candidate on the left, and this is the way we can get hold of the election by, turning the country into a shithole. And I think that's horrible, but I don't think it was any conspiracy. I get what they were doing by trying to flatten the curve, but hell, the curve is flattened. Most of those hospitals, save for a few in New York and New Jersey, never filled up, and so we flattened the curve. So I agreed with that. Okay, let's flatten the curve. Let's see if we can let the hospitals get ahead of the game. If you ask me, it seems like they've done that. So it's time to open the country back up again, and maybe do it in some limited area where older people don't go back to work. So I don't think that was a conspiracy. I think, look, I own a bunch of businesses, and when you write down the tenets of what you're going to do, there's always an exit plan, right? There was no exit plan to flattening the curve. There was just flatten the curve. Well, now they need to, in retrospect, come up with an exit plan, because we can't keep doing this, right? This is crazy at this point. But the one that got to me, and it was early on, and I went on my podcast and talked about it, and I went to a few other places and talked about it. I saw one morning, it was about 6 weeks ago, it's kind of the beginning of all this, 5 weeks ago. This woman on the BBC News, they said this woman, hey, she was younger, she was 47 or 46, and she died of natural causes from, she died of COVID-19, and she had no underlying causes. That's what they said. And they had a picture of this poor woman, and she weighed at least 350 pounds, if not 400. And I said, wait a minute, no natural causes? No underlying causes? You're saying that this woman was completely healthy at least 350 pounds, and you're going to say she died of COVID-19. Well, that's just disingenuous. And I know it's not, popular to call out fat people, and I never do. I never shame fat people. That's not the mission here. And I wasn't shaming that woman. What I was saying was, hey, listen, folks, if someone's 350 pounds, by definition, they have fatty liver disease. By definition, they have sleep apnea. By definition, they have fatty liver disease. By definition, they're very sick to begin with. You can't say that there were no other problems. This woman was perfectly healthy, because that's a lie, right? So the question becomes, Sean, will people, after this whole COVID thing is over with, will they get healthier? The answer is hell no. They're going to go, all right, we beat that. Where's my Slurpee? Where's my Pop-Tarts? let me get back to eating some M&Ms. No one's going to go, oh, wait, I dodged a bullet. I got lucky. Let me do this. Because the industry won't allow them to do that. They're going to double down on their bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is, we're in a situation where there's been an interruption in the food supply, particularly, we see that with meat and dairy and some of these other foods. And I think dairy is one of those ones where pros or cons, but meat in particular, we're in a situation where you go to the store and they say you can only have 2 packets of beef or 3 packets of beef or something like that. Why aren't they saying you can only have 2 packets of friggin' donuts? Or, why aren't we rationing that stuff? I mean, that would be, that would sort of, I mean, if we really wanted to address health, if we really want to because we're doing this whole lockdown to protect people's health and lives. And at the same time, we're saying, well, go eat whatever you want, just eat junk, sit in your house, eat junk, watch Netflix, hide from each other. Where is the incentive to stop with that stuff?
Well, there won't be any because, look, there would be an outcry. Right now, look, I mean, back when we watched sitcoms, when sitcoms were a thing, every joke was, hey, I'll have the New York strip with a side of cardiology, and this kind of thing. It was only, well, you better bring a doctor with that steak. I hope you have some EKG paddles or whatever they call them. That was always the joke about meat. And we still we demonize meat as well. Too much saturated fat is not good. So if you tell people, hey, we have to limit your meat, everyone just goes with the program. If you told someone you had to limit anything else, they would go, wait a minute, why? No, I need that crap. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't understand. That's what I eat because that's what they told them they eat, and that's kind of the problem. When you think about what's going on with this whole COVID thing, we had more of a reaction from not being able to get toilet paper than we do to not being able to get meat. What does that tell you? There was news story after news story about toilet paper at the beginning of this. How many news stories have you seen on meat? Can't find it. Doesn't exist. It's nuts.
Yeah, well, I look at I think the folks that had kind of sort of influence the narrative or people that have a lot of money invested in that. And we see that these alternative meat products, ramping up to be 140, $180 billion a year industry. And so they're laying the groundwork to say that, the future is this, you are going to be eating alternative sources of protein, whether it's plant-based or lab created. That is what's better for the environment. That is what's better for your health. And we're gonna give you a real happy message about that, and people buy into that, and they don't really question it any further because most people, as I mean, it doesn't take a genius to walk around in public, to walk around in the grocery store, walk around a shopping mall to see that most people could give a flying F about their health. I mean, if they did, they wouldn't be in the condition they're in. I mean, and that's the thing. And the only people that, as you look in this audience here, I mean, you look at it, I mean, most of the folks here are over 40. I mean, and the reason is because they screwed up their health and now they're trying to regain it. And they spent the first 20, 30, 40 years of their life eating crap, eating garbage, and pursuing a crappy lifestyle. And it just let them down. And you don't see 20-year-olds. And as I mean, this is who marketing is for. This is who all the celebrities, they market to the 20-year-olds, the 15-year-old kids. Drink your Coca-Cola, eat your Pop-Tarts, eat your Snickers bars, take your supplements, take your chewable gummies and probiotics and all this stuff that you see, and then that becomes your lifetime pattern. I mean, these adult patterns are laid down in the teens and early 20s, and once you're in, I mean, you're in. I mean, that's it, and then until something breaks, and you got to wait till something breaks until you get sick of it. So I don't know how to penetrate. It's tough because when you were 20 and I was 20. I could eat whatever. I got party. I could go get drunk on the weekend. Monday morning comes around, I get back to training, and by Friday I was in really good shape again. I don't do that stuff anymore. I can't do that stuff anymore. But I mean, that's the difference between people mistaking youth for health. Youth allows you to get away with things, and the nice thing about being older is you realize what's healthy, what's not. Anyway, what are your thoughts on, are you having an impact on young kids, Vinny? I mean, what is your audience? I mean, where do you, I mean, and how do we reach those kids, you think?
Sean, that's the $1 million question. I really don't know. I do a thing. I do a lot of talks, and not now, but up until 2 months ago, I was on the road a lot, and I've been doing that for 3 or 4 years, where I get hired to go do these keynote speeches and what have you. And I I would look out of the window in the airplane and go, I really love driving. So I started making a thing. If it's within 1,000 miles, I will drive to it and drive back. So it's a 2,000-mile trip. And because I love driving, I love walking and seeing people. And when you stop to get gas, or you do this or you do that, you see people. And, one of the few things I eat when I'm on the road, well, I don't eat, I drink coffee. So it's easy to stop in Starbucks. And Starbucks around the country, I don't know if you know this, but they put them in Target, Target stores. And some of these big box stores have the Starbucks in, or the grocery stores. So when you're going through, Phoenix, or you're going through Spokane or whatever, you might find, the Starbucks in a Target. I would never walk into a Target or a big box grocery store, or a Costco, wherever these things are, otherwise, and I see what's out there, and it's very alarming to me. Younger and younger, you see morbidly obese 300 and 400-pound kids, and you see their moms and their dads in these electric strollers. And I'm looking at this, and man, this is not the America I grew up in. This is not, and we're losing the game. The other thing that scares me about looking at Americana, and this happens when I go to Europe too. I travel a lot to Europe because of my wife. Everyone's got a cell phone in their hand. They walk around with this. It's attached to their hand. And if they're not looking at it, it's in their hand. They can't let it go. As a matter of fact, I did a little 30-second video. I haven't put it up yet. But I said, hey, COVID-19, take the cell phone, stick it in a drawer. If it's 15 minutes, stick it in there for 15 minutes. If it's 30 minutes, I take mine for 3 hours a day. After I do my tweeting in the morning, I don't need that phone. I stick it in a drawer, and I don't pick it up for 3 or 4 hours. I check my tweets again. I answer those, back in the drawer. I refuse to be one of these people walking around looking at this thing in my hand. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life looking at a 2x4-inch piece of glass. It's just not going to happen. And everyone's addicted to it, and we got to get away from that. That's a problem. The way we're eating is a problem. The way we're sold to is a problem. But when you say, how do we beat that? How do we get past that? I don't know, because they'll look at a Vinnie Tortorich riding his bike 300 miles, or a Sean Baker lifting a rock, a 200-pound rock, and putting it on a shelf, and they'll go, well, I'll never be those guys, so I might as well just not even try. So I'm not even sure that you and me, I'm not sure we're sending the right message in a weird way. People might look at us and go, well, screw those guys, can't do that, So I don't know what the answer is. And if you come up with it, would you please share it with me?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Vinny. I mean, it's I look at my, my demographic for, you look at your social media, see what your demographic is. And I see that, it's mostly male. I mean, I'm fortunately influencing more females, because I think females are the ones that actually, and I think really the answer is really to get to women. And, it's tough as a guy because women don't relate to us as well as they relate to other women. I mean, that's just the way it is. But women make the decisions on nutrition in the household. And a lot of, because that's just the way it has been, and usually as women, usually not to be sexist or anything like it, but that even in 2020, women tend to be the decision maker when it comes to nutrition and health in home. And so trying to get to those folks, and then they influence their kids, is probably the biggest challenge. And I do think, influencing women, and it may not what we do directly, but it might be what we do indirectly. We say, hey, look, you're a woman, step up, become a powerful, strong, beautiful, passionate woman, and show what you can do. You don't have to sit there and eat salad and have the dressing on the side and, let's put a little tiny piece of fish or chicken on there so I don't gain a pound. So I can look like a, kind of an insect, kind of a stick insect. But, and just seeing, because we just see it in our kids. I mean, and the moms are very cognizant of the fact of what's going on with their children. You see what happens. You see a kid, they go to a party, a birthday party, they eat a bunch of crap, cake and cookies and ice cream. And, that's, unfortunately birthdays are every day now. It seems like you go to school and everybody's got a birthday party, it's like always constant. But you see what happens to those kids, and they their behavior goes to crap too. Sometimes they just feel like garbage, they become moody, and so hopefully the moms will understand that, and you get them to look at that with the kids, and they raise their kids with a certain, it's a battle that starts from day one. It starts in the home, and I think you have to influence the 6-year-olds, and that's before they get to be teenagers, because then as teenagers they do whatever the heck they want at some point.
Yeah, and that message is still moving in the wrong direction. And look, the reason I moved out to Hollywood back in 1991 was because I was working with kids at Newman School in New Orleans, and I saw obesity on the rise. Now, from the time I graduated high school in 1981 and 1991, I saw a shift. There were we had one fat kid in our class. His name was Phil. He was my best friend, and he was the one fat kid. There were no fat kids in 1981. And then by the time I was coaching in 1987 at that school, there were a lot of roly-poly kids. And I'm like, well, how did this happen? And I started looking at all my friends' kids and what they were eating, what they were doing. So when I moved out to Hollywood, and I went to Disney, I went to Nickelodeon, was kind of brand new at that time, and the whole thing. I went to all these people that ran children's networks, and I said, hey, kids are getting fat. And they said, oh yeah, we know they're getting fat. And I said, yeah, I have some ideas of what we could do so that they're not fat. And they said, great, what are those ideas? And I said, we have to get them off of sugars and grains. And they would just laugh me out of the building. It's like, we can't put program up telling people not to eat what our sponsors are supplying. It's just insane. So I got drummed out of those meetings, and they were like, come up with something else. Can we tell them to do sit-ups or push-ups or something? I said, yeah, that too, but that's not going to do anything. I've been a coach for a few years now. I'm telling you, you can have them do all the push-ups and sit-ups you want. That's not doing anything, right? And now we've lost what I've been yelling about this for years. We've lost the fitness middle class. If you go on Instagram, you see two people. You see a 500-pound person who has lost, 300 pounds, and they look great, right? You see that person, the before and after. Hell, I'm guilty of it. I put up before and afters all the time. And then you see these women in leotards and tights or whatever you call them these days, and they're super fit over here. There's nobody in the middle, and we need to get that middle back, right? You have the hot chick who's trying to make something out of her Instagram, and you have the person who's lost 300 pounds, but there's no middle. We need the middle. And I don't know how to do that. I can't do it all. You can't do it all. How do we get that middle back?
Yeah, I mean, I've been encouraging people to do this horizontal spread, and just everybody get on there and just saturate it. But I mean, it really is tough. Yeah, it kind of reminds me back when I was a kid in the early 70s. I remember I was inspired by Bruce Jenner, and I wrote that in my book. But I'm not inspired by Bruce Jenner anymore for some reason. I just don't follow the path he's chosen. But and I actually tried to put that in my book, and it was taken out by the editors. So it's probably considered offensive to people. But I mean, that's just honest. I mean, God bless him, let him do what he wants, but I'm not going down that road. But I mean, I remember I watched him win the decathlon, and I think it was was it 76? And I was probably 9 years old, and it inspired me to want to do a neighborhood Olympics. And we had a high jump, and a marathon was four laps around the block, and sprints and jumping and throwing and all that stuff. And we had all the neighborhood kids, and we had the fat kid. I mean, this is what it was, the fat kid, because there was only one kid. And I remember that, his name was Stephen Smith, and it's such a common name, I don't think I'll identify him. But
you're not outing him.
Yeah, I'm not outing him, but I mean, his kid's name was Stephen Smith. He was probably, I don't know, 9 years old, probably. He was 180 pounds or so. He was just obviously an obese kid at the time, but he was out there doing this stuff. But we just had one kid in the entire realm of people I knew as a child. And I probably interacted with kids at school, and this is the only fat kid I knew, and we had him out there doing it. But it is crazy. Well, Vinnie, unfortunately, I've got to wrap this up. I got to go do another podcast. Tell us where people can find you. Apologize for there was a little bit of static on the line here today, but unfortunately, I think we got most of it through. Tell us where to find you, how to get people are asking where they can find the Fat documentary, and then your book, and then where to find you, where to follow you on social media, and anything else you want to share.
Yeah, Fat, a documentary. You can still find on iTunes, but you have to pay for it, whether it's rental or buy on iTunes. You can also buy it on Amazon, but if you have Amazon Prime, it comes free with Prime. It's on Vimeo if you live somewhere else in the world. And if you have some VOD, it's on 65 other VODs. If you ever get back on an airplane, you'll see it there. Most of the airlines are carrying it now. So Fat, a documentary is what it's called. You can, if you just Google Vinnie Tortorich, my name is up on the Chiron here. All of my stuff, my free PDF is there. I have a company called PureVitaminClub.com. We sell the purest vitamins on the planet. These are not white label vitamins. I have built every one of the vitamins we sell, and they're the purest vitamins out there, no junk. We also have PureCoffeeClub.com. I am the guy who comes up with the roast. I've been a coffee freak my entire life. I've been drinking a cup of it throughout this whole podcast. I'm almost out. PureCoffeeClub.com and blah, 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 blah. There's the book and everything else. Go check it all out.
All right. Thanks so much, Vinnie. We appreciate it. And good luck to you in Virginia. Hopefully you find your settle down, say hi to Serena for me, and, take care, Vinnie. I look forward to seeing you on the road. I mean, I know I was going to go to KetoCon, but obviously it got canceled. So hopefully we'll hook up in live person at some point, one of these things. I'm sure our paths will cross again. Okay, guys. Thank you, everybody. We'll see some of you guys tomorrow. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye, guys. See ya.